What's going on, guys? Time for a recap and a catch up. Man, we had an interesting scam up today, but we are ready for both long and short today. So let's kind of go over what was happening in the market. So today I was looking for a couple different interesting ones. My Discord today about 7:22 a.m. I said 513.09 SPY is your over under for today. If you are obviously over that level, you will look for that upside, and you have 523.54 coming for the scam up. Now I know that sounds like an astronomically far amount away, but let's talk about why that might be possible, right? So today on the intraday charts, I want to talk a little bit about some back and forth, some extra confirmations that we had seen coming here, and what we did to make our little 2,137.50. So I started a tiny little new account because a lot of you guys have been messaging me on X, formerly Twitter, saying that the drawdowns are kind of tough to work with, and we don't want to trade through, the whole long drawn out past the thing with Apex, which is fine. So we can do another small account challenge here, and small accounts are kind of iffy. So you guys wanted medium accounts. A lot of you guys are trading from anywhere, like it said, like you guys are saying, between 9,000 and like 15,000. 15 is a really good day trade metric for futures, in my opinion, to kind of start off. If you don't have at least that to trade some micros without trading some prop firms, might steer clear. So what I did was I deposited 15,000 into we got another Ninja Trader account open. So we got that one open right now. We did 2,137.50 on the day. Now, we took a lot of in between scalps, but we started with 15, and with commissions and a lot of scalps, we're at 16,815. So we did about 1,800 bucks today, green, on the new small account, and we'll give you updates day by day on this $15,000 challenge. Now, to get into the price action, what we were kind of seeing here, like the Discord said 513.09, 513.09. Why did we say that? Well, anything above this 100% fib, we have a chance to come all the way back to the golden pocket. So let's go back here and see where that fib comes from and why we think that, why we knew that, really. So this whole large 4-4, this was what we called the short off of, right? And I'm really big on Fibonacci boxes. So if you take the body of 4-4 on the daily candle, very large, big range, strong candle touching the 10 SMA daily. We have another one of those right here that we can go over after. But for the 4-4 here, we had a Fibonacci that had completed an entire system, right? So when we opened up here, we assume anything above the 100 fib, we're going to go up to the golden pocket. Okay, see, we did that. Let's get a better color for that. So, okay, I'll click the garbage can 6 more times. There we go. Bright yellow. All right, on the box. So once we were inside this candle's 100 fib, we had an opportunity to come to the golden pocket, which is above or below the body of that 50, and that is 519.55 area. We hit that, right? Completed the break of the 100 fib, so now we are outside of the box. So when price action comes outside the box, we start looking for extension 1 and extension 2. Generally speaking, that's the 1618 and the 2618, obviously, right? So we come to a full completion of these fibs, right? So price action, boom, broke down 181 and bottomed right at the 2618. And when we kind of got into this consolidation madness here, we said we were shying the 100 EMA, and we could either do two things during this chop consolidation with all the news and earnings coming out. We're either going to push back up to that 50 SMA daily, or we're going to come back down to that 100 EMA daily. Whatever one happens to happen, doesn't matter to me. It's just got to look for the confirmations, right? So with this 4-4 candle, though, it told us that this sequence of the fib was gone. And why 513 was a very, very big over-under for us today is because once it gets inside the 100 fib of the box, we have a chance to go all the way back up to the 523.54, topping near highs, right? So that's why I put that in the chat this morning, where we have an opportunity now, because we are inside the 100 fib. Anything above this, we'll be holding a double gap up, and we will be moving back to 523.54, thus completing back to the upside, the Fibonacci of 4-4. And what a completion is it takes root here, pushes down, completes 1 and 2 markers to the downside. We had 100 EMA here as well, and then turns back around. And once it holds the 2618 as support, you just look upward to come back to the 1618, and then above that to the 100 fib. That was a really wide line down there. I don't know why I drew it like that, but once it's over the 100, or once it's over the 1618, we go back to the 100, and then that becomes the over under, and that's what ours was today. So anything above 513, we're going to squeeze back towards the golden pocket and do a heavy squeeze back towards 523.54. Maybe anticipation of video earnings and a bunch of other stuff on the jam up. So let's talk about the day trade today and how we got a nice little 1800. So I wanted to go short, and there's a couple of reasons short, and we'll talk about that first. So NQ had a couple different gaps today. Missed my click. So in the intraday and these gaps in the 1 minute chart, we do love to fill. Usually same day, but if they stay open, that's fine. We just put them in the back of our mind, and we always remember where these things are at. So we had two gaps down here for NQ, right? So we had one at 18,055.96, and then one way down here, which is still open at 18,028. Now I wanted to see that fill, but we had extra confirmation that that fill wasn't going to happen, and we'll get into how we're going to play that and decide, right? So when I posted on X, I said that we would have an opportunity for two different gaps, right, for those fills. And I wanted to see it come down, go down to the 100 EMA 5 minutes, so on and so forth. And then that would be it. So I posted this one right here, and I said we have two gaps. And if we stayed above that 100 EMA, we're going to go to the top gap. And then if we finally lose the 100 EMA, we chase down the bottom gap, right? It's all about confirmation. So we don't just take a trade and close our eyes and wait for it to go hit the tag. Let's talk about those confirmations. So I was here when we posted that, right? So drawing tool disappeared. There it is. We were here coming into that 200 SMA 1 minute support, and I seen that gap open, and I'm like, okay, well, I might as well take it to the upside or the downside. Let's look at the confirmation. So we had a higher low wave right here on the RSI, boom, and then a higher low, obviously, price action. So a little bit of a W play here to fill this gap. So we took a long right there, shorted it back down here, all the way back down to the 200, and took a couple counter trend shorts up here after pre-market was coming to a close, and I decided we're probably going to get a big old force up here, and we had two targets, right? The fib was going to be one, and then I called in my chat as well, two would be 18,154 today. So you were either going to break away from this POC and the 50 SMA daily, you were going to come to complete this 2618 and backtest the 0 weekly fib right here, which we had not backtested yet on NQ, or we were going to stay under the 50 SMA and come back down for the gap fill. Now let's look at the confirmations and the algo swap after we had some Fed speaks, and this is where the interesting algos come to fruition here. So we had Barkin come on, say a bunch of jam, or was it Goldsby? It must be Goldsby, coming on for Fed speak, and he had jumped on right around here and just made this awkward little jam that we had, because I wanted to see the 666 simple moving average in the dash purple here catch up on that 1 minute chart before we got a big boost up, but it ended up holding the 50 SMA daily. Let's talk about two very unique candles here on the NQ, and this was on SPY, this was on everything, and you can see it obviously designating support at that 50. So this big hard dash line is the 50 SMA daily, okay? And you can see this setup right here when he started talking, and then this is the confirmation algo setup right here. So on the 1 minute chart, you can see that these things do not want to go lower. It does not matter on metric. So when you get metrics like the MACD going lower low, RSI going lower low, but the price action is steady, higher lowing, you're getting divergence in indicators. And we had that from the beginning. We said it was going to be a scam update. And anytime you see head and shoulders, go long. That is the newest long pattern for the last year that we've been playing that sucker. And especially in intraday charts, they are just the worst of the worst. You can see these things just go shoulder, head, shoulder, long. Another one, shoulder, head, shoulder, down a smidge, long. Another one, shoulder, head, smaller one down here, long. So these things are just not to be ever played. And we talked about this 8 months to a year ago now. How these intraday head and shoulders should never be played to the downside. And you can look at another one up here at our target, right? So we had a little bit of a roll back over. It's a high shoulder on this one, but still, you got a nice little wave. And all it did was hold 100 EMA in the green here on the minute and push right back up off all divergence indicators. That's something that I stressed big time today for our chat. If we go back in history here, I said there was going to be an absolute scam fest. It's just going to push up, 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 and up. And that brings us to our final little point here on SPY. And because those fibs can come all the way back, that's why we chose 513.09 as an over-under. Then we had some targets on the futures and so on and so forth. So where does that leave us now? Well, because the fibs have an opportunity on two gap and go now, right? So we have two open gaps on the daily chart, one here from last week and one starting this week. We are looking at MAC recrossing. We got the higher low. It should have hit the 50 RSI, came back down, potentially hit that 100 EMA and went back up. That's what I was looking for first. And especially with today with that gap, I wanted to see the downside. But with those markers of the Fed speak and how they manipulated there, and they just went, oh, we're just going to turn this sucker around. Look at SPY. We looked at it at NQs. You can see it here on SPY. Boom. Boom. Again, zero divergence there, comes down, whole lower low section, full lower low section, did not matter. Higher low on price action, stayed above the 200 SMA, stayed above VWAP. And that's something I looked for on that last Twitter call as well, so we could check that out. I looked for under the VWAP, and I wanted to see the 100 EMA 5-minute. Now, this is cool because we actually shied it again, right? So anything under VWAP was the short. You can see this thing lasted barely a few minutes under the VWAP, which is our purple dash line right here. Lasted literally no time at all under that. I wanted to see this green level hit 100 EMA. We had the breakdown of the 50. We had perfect MAC for hours for that downside of the market. Just no way. Consolidated strong. Forced itself back up on the manip, which is fine. We actually seen that way in pre. We actually said absolutely zero shorts from here on out. Anything above that 50, and all of this was pre-programmed. Now here I was looking for that counter trend to go back short, maybe fill that algo back there on NQ, but now it's open, and now we have a target for when we start to roll back under. So exciting enough. So for the final point of the recap here, we're going to get most likely a macro long, right? So a couple days worth of long, maybe the week, because of this setup of the shy at 100 EMA, price action, higher low, higher high, 2 different sequences. And usually they come in threes. So if we drop this down a little bit, see the candle's a little better. So if this is bottom 1, we have 1, 2, and then 3, right, on that push. So we're looking for that next cycle up to continue all the way back up to our target 523.54 now. And we're still going to look for a later date wash coming to the end of summer. We were looking at Fed rate hikes. We're looking like June, July, something like that, way past. We're just getting to May. So that little dip to that 100 EMA shy, which we never hit. We came back down, shied it on the SPY, which is pretty crazy, created a gap up, filled, all it did was higher low in sequence, and is running up on zero volume. Now, when you see zero volume push shorts, those are the hardest days to trade. And that's another signal that I had seen this morning where you had really low volume. We had no volume, but all it does is gap and go, gap and go, gap and go, and push and manipulate up on low volume. So be it. Our last piece of the puzzle, I do want to mention, we did have a controlled algo sell here on the VIX. So when you see candling on a 5-day, 5-minute like this in VIX in pre-market, which is in the light gray right here, this is a really big one that gave us the incantation that VIX was under some heavy fire. So from like 5:30 a.m. Central, we've had bottom side RSI here on the cool side, and it literally stayed there for hours of oversold. And even when it did pop, it literally didn't do anything at all. And you could tell by the pre-market price actioning when they slow this thing down, that is the most unnatural, fabricated, manufactured candles by algos. They just had the button turned on at the exchange. So it's plain and simple. You can see how the VIX generally moves when it has good days, even in pre-market on low volume. You can see that it does have, disruptible candles, things that open and close and have unique flow, big pops. I mean, some of that is data, obviously, but then throughout the day, you have very clean momentum, and you don't have too many dashes, and you get nothing that's a straight line, right? So you can see some of these where it pops down, gets some pop, almost a reversal, big wipeout on data, so on and so forth. But look at today's pre-market action. Super controlled, like a straight line. This does not happen naturally. That perfect straight line is an algo control. We call it selling under the 10. If you had a 10 SMA moving average on here, on that minute, it would just sit here and hug it the entire time on the way down. And when we see that, that's why we said absolutely no shorts at all until we could come back down, unless we're counter trend scalping tops, which we got a little bit on, but those were a little nutty. We said VIX could come back down to fill that gap. So this is the gap up on the VIX. And then once we opened up, we trickled all the way back down and filled that gap on the VIX that you wanted to see. So let's see what tomorrow brings, if we get a little bit of a kickback. But right now we are up, and we are on the big squeeze, right? So back to the squeeze, back to the highs, and back to a potential, even if there's a red day, back, if there is, it's going to be up here in the golden pocket between 517 and 519.55 area of the 4-4 daily candle. And then if we come up and then kind of hold inside that fib, we will end up at that 523 call. So let's see how the long prefers to work out here. If we get a war headline or something else that pushes us to a narrative, well, we'll check out the short side. But for now, we're going to get a scam up all the way back towards the top of this 4-4 fib, because now we are inside that candle. Again, just for play's sake, we had poof, lower high broke, 2618 completed fib 100. Now back inside the 100, we have a chance to come to no man's territory, which is the top of that 4-4 candle, where we have no price action up there. That needs to be filled, and those algos love, after it's moved its entire range to the 2618, back to the 1618, back to the 100, and then back to the 0% up here. And that's what they love to do. They love to cycle Fibonacci's. So we'll take a peek at that and continue the gap and go and the strenuous activity to the upside. So tune in for the next.